Yo, what's up? It's Egg here. And before this video gets started, I just want to thank you all for 100 subscribers. Guys, I cannot believe I hit it in under 2 weeks. Like, do you guys understand how crazy that is? Like, I'm so thankful for you guys, as well as all the people who have subscribed, left likes, left comments. Dude, it's really encouraging. This is why I've been posting like once every week. I had a channel back then that I made before this one that I tried to do what ifs, and let's just say it kind of tanked, but now, I mean, I'm getting views. Like, guys, like, one of my videos has over 1.1k. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, thank you guys so much for the 100 subs. Like, I'm so thankful for both of my series that are out. They're doing pretty great considering I have 100 subs. So, I mean, I'll continue to make great content for you guys. And without any further ado, this is going to be the 100 sub special on What If Deku Learned the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist. And other than that, let's get into it. Okay guys, so before the video gets started, I just have to give some background info. So in this timeline, Inko's dad is going to be Bang, obviously, and he's going to be the grandpa of Deku. So Deku and Inko will both be having white hair, and I'm not sure if Bang's hair is actually white or if it's just because he's old, but I think it looks badass. So I'm just going to give them white hair. So in this timeline, Deku will grow up around the same environment, and what I mean by that is that he'll be having everything that happens to him in canon happen to him up until he's about 4, when everybody's discovering their quirks. And after a couple of weeks, Deku's a little worried, thinking, what's my quirk? Like, he's trying to figure out what it is, and he ends up going to the doctors, where they tell him that he doesn't have a quirk, and that breaks his heart. But unlike in canon, Inko actually tells him that he doesn't have to worry and that he can still become a great hero. Deku then starts to smile and asks if she really means it, and Inko then tells Deku that she has to wait for Deku to become strong. She then tells him that they're gonna go visit Grandpa, and yeah. So guys, in this timeline, Bang will only live about 2 hours away, and he's still gonna have his dojo where he teaches people the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist, but I won't be including any One Punch Man characters other than Bang, just because I don't really feel like they have any place here. I don't want to include any more characters and just be juggling a bunch of unnecessary things. But back to the story. After that, after Inko tells Izuku that they're going to go visit the grandpa, Izuku then asks why, and she says that he'll find out when they get there. Up to this point, Izuku never really was all that close to his grandpa and never really saw the dojo. He's only ever seen it in pictures since they lived a little far. Also, I forgot to mention, no, Bang won't be retired. He won't be a retired hero. I'm doing this so that way Zuko's going to be his own person, and nobody's going to be like, oh, like, you're the grandson of da-da-da-da. Like, I wanted him to be his own person instead of trying to surpass him. He wants to make his own legacy with his own power. So they get to Bang's dojo, and this is when Bang sees Inko and Deku, he gets happy, and he starts showing them the place, and Inko basically tells Izuku to go play around, do something, do whatever. And and then she asks him if they could talk for a bit, and he says of course, and she basically starts telling him that Deku's quirkless, and after hearing that, he starts chuckling and says, wow, I guess he inherited it from me. And then she asks him if he could train Deku to become a hero, since that's his dream and he wants to save everybody. Bang, after hearing this, will turn to see a small Izuku throwing punches and kicks and walk up to him and ask him if he would like to learn how to fight and get strong. After Deku hears this, he will ask, will I be strong enough to fight bad guys and become a hero? Bang then chuckles and says, if you train hard enough, you'll become even stronger than me without a quirk. Deku then smiles and rushes to Inko and asks her if he can train with Grandpa. She then starts to smile and says, this is why I brought you here. This is why I brought you here, Izuku, so you could reach your dream. Deku then starts hugging her and runs to Bang, asking him to see his power. Bang then smiles and says, oh, you want a demonstration? And Deku nods his head. Bang then says, come with me. My bad, guys. He then says, come with me. And they go outside, and Bang walks up to a huge boulder and says, watch this. He then gets into the water stream rock smashing fist stance and completely annihilates a huge boulder with no effort at all. After seeing that, Deku's eyes widen and he says if he can do that someday, and Bang tells him that in time he'll be able to do even more than that. And after that, Inko then tells Izuku that she's going to stay for about a week to be with him, and after that she'll be going back home and leaving him with Grandpa for a couple years to train. He then gets a little saddened that he won't be able to see his mother that often, but he asks if she'll come visit him every now and then, and she tells him of course, and that they'll always be talking and texting. So that's going to be his dynamic for the next couple years. So from now on, Deku will actually be training for the next 10 years and perfecting the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist. And this is going to be what he's going to be doing up until the original events. But but this is going to be just going over like how he trains and how things are over there. So basically in the beginning, Bang started teaching Deku the basics of martial arts, training his body and showing Deku how to punch, as well as bonding with Deku. And since they're together all the time, Deku will develop an extremely close relationship with his grandpa. And they'll be very close. Bang will tell him stories of when he was in his prime and teach him everything he knows about the technique. And through all the years, Deku will learn and master it and picked up a lot of things extremely quickly. He was a genius. I mean, he was one in a million of students. I mean, he had such great potentials. And by the age of 9, he could spar with many of the students and crush boulders. He was an exceptional talent and trained even harder than anyone else. He trained with weighted clothes, kind of like Rock Lee, and he worked twice as hard as him because he knew that since he was quirkless, he was going to have to put in twice the effort to become somebody. And yeah, and obviously he was, Bang's favorite student for obvious reasons, but he also learned how to use his style by the age of 10 and masters it at the age of 14. The last couple years they were there, on the last day, Deku was staying with Bang, and Bang walked into Deku's room and started telling him how proud he was of him and that he knows he will become an amazing fighter, and how impressed he was at all the time Deku spent training and dedicated to becoming strong. Deku then smiles and thanks him for all the training and all the years he spent with him, that he wouldn't have came so far in such a short time without such an amazing teacher. Bang then chuckles and says, you're way stronger than I was at your age, right? And then tells him that he wants Deku to inherit his name, Silver Fang. Deku then is shocked and says he accepts it, and tells Bang that he promises to make him proud and become even stronger than he is now and surpass him one day. They then talk about how long it's been, and then Bang tells Deku that he has one last special test he wants to give him before he leaves. He then tells Deku that he wants to spar with him to see where he's at, and tells Deku not to hold back, that this will be a full-out battle. They then go outside in a clear area next to a waterfall. They both ready themselves and take deep breaths in, and then they go. Deku rushes Bang and tries to land a hit, but that's when Bang starts to deliver a wave of blows at Deku, demolishing him. And right as he's about to deliver one of the hardest blow, Deku then takes the hit and counters it, sending a hit that was 2 times harder and sent Bang flying back. Deku then kicks the floor and some dust rises, as well as leaving a crater, and rushes Bang and fakes him out with a kick to the leg. But before Bang had any time to react, Deku then delivered a strong, and I mean strong, blow to Bang's head with his arm, and sending him back by a lot actually. And then Bang says, okay, that's a good warm-up. He then says, you ready to go all out? And I mean it, you'll need it. Deku then smiles and uses a breathing technique he developed from Bang's technique to increase all of his stats tenfold. They then smile, and in a blink of an eye they clash, and psych, y'all don't get to know who wins this fight. Come on now, y'all will find that out on a later date, but just know it was one of those anime scenes where this was gonna be the final blow. Like, whoever won this won the entire thing. So y'all will get to find out in the future what happens there. So after that, Deku then packs his bags up, and before he leaves, Bang gives him one last thing. He gives him a black, heavy weighted shirt that is extremely resistant to fire, explosions, and things of that sort, as well as some white pants and black shoes that Garo wears. Guys, not gonna lie, he's gonna be a mini monster. He's gonna be stronger and faster than Garo. Remember, he's gonna be a mini, stronger and faster Garo, basically. And remember, he has white hair. So, anyways, after that, he says goodbye to his grandpa and goes back to his old home. And when he gets there, he arrives there by train. And he arrives near the school he used to go to when he was a kid. And while he's passing by, he arrives at the school that Bakugo goes to. And he thinks, I guess this tunnel will take me home even quicker. As it happens, he starts walking and senses something following him, coming towards him at a fast speed, and that's when he dodges it and goes to attack it when suddenly his hand gets stuck in the sludge monster. He then thinks, physical attacks won't work on this thing, as the sludge villain is about to say, give me your body, kid. And right as that happens, All Might turns the corner and sees Deku's hand in the villain, and right when he's about to go save him, Deku then flips over the sludge villain and says, water stream rock smashing fist, air palm. And he delivers a devastating palm that creates a force of wind that sends the sludge villain flying. A huge shockwave comes off of the amount of force that Deku used, and he knocked the villain out like All Might would have. All Might then goes to Deku and says, wow, kid, what's your quirk? Deku then says, oh, All Might. He then starts freaking out and says, I'm a huge fan. Could you sign my notebook? All Might then signs it and says, and asks Deku, again, he's like, what's your quirk? Deku then looks at All Might and says, oh right, sorry, I'm actually quirkless. What you just saw was just the fighting style that my grandpa taught me, the water stream rock smashing fist. All Might then thinks that's amazing, he's quirkless and he's this strong. Deku then starts to pick up the slime as he talks to All Might and bottles him up. After that, Deku then asks All Might if he thinks he can become a hero even though he's quirkless. All Might then thinks and says, I'm not sure, it's a dangerous world out there and without a quirk, it might be difficult for you. He then says, but there's a chance for you, young man. I'll be heading off now, since his time limit was about to end. After hearing that, Deku just smiles and says, he hasn't seen what I can do. I'll become a pro hero no matter what. As Deku's walking home, he hears an explosion, and All Might accidentally dropped the sludge villain, and like in canon, it got a hold of Bakugo, and after hearing this explosion, Deku rushes over, going at full speed. He's very fast in this one, so I'd say at base, his stats are about 15% full cal. He gets there extremely fast, and when he gets there, he sees a boy trapped in sludge villain. He thinks, oh no! He then rushes in and shoots up. He then rushes in and kicks at the ground, sending him flying forwards at the sludge villain. He then does a quick hand motion and goes, water stream rock smashing palm! And he shoots a palm that sends twice the amount of force. Actually, not 4 times the amount of wind pressure, so it's huge. He then grabs Bakugo's hand right before he goes off flying with him and pulls him in. And the sludge villain then goes flying and says, no, get away! And before the villain could finish, Deku wiped the floor with him, literally. After that, he asked Bakugo if he was okay and then captured the sludge villain with Bakugo being like, I didn't need your help. And gave him to one of the heroes, and then he ran off saying, I gotta get home. And just like in the original, All Might saw what he did and was inspired to push through his limits. But before All Might stepped in, Deku took the villain out. And after that, when he was walking home, All Might then approached him and told him about One For All and his injury, as well as how he was inspired by Deku and how he was quirkless and still stepped in when the heroes couldn't do anything. He then tells Deku that he wants him to inherit All For One. I mean, One For All. My bad, guys. It's really easy to confuse those two, but after hearing this, Deku then smiles and thinks about it for a second, thinking, wow, I'm gonna be the successor to my grandpa and the #1 hero. I'm gonna have a lot to live up to. Deku then looks at All Might and says, I accept. How will this work? All Might then smiles and says, eat this. And Deku will just be like, okay, and eat it. And All Might questions him and says, why didn't you ask any questions? Deku then says, I just figured that it's your DNA that makes your quirk transfer. And then he looks at All Might and says, what? Just because I'm strong, you think I'm stupid? All Might then hears this and laughs and says, wow, kid. And thinks to himself, well, this boy will definitely surpass me without a doubt. All Might then tells him to rest his body for today and that meet him at the beach tomorrow for training. All Might then jumps off and Deku then goes home, and after this he sees his mom and they start talking and she freaks out, saying what happened to him, what took him so long. Deku then says that he ran into a villain and took care of him. He also tells her that he met All Might and they both start freaking out and geeking out, and she says, did you get an autograph? Deku then freaks out for a second and says, I sure did. They then walk out and they start catching up about it, and as she tells him that, she starts telling him how proud she is for getting as strong as he has and tells him that she's proud he's her son. He then passes out, and the next day comes around and Deku basically puts on a black shirt and some joggers and heads off to the beach when When he gets there, he sees All Might in his deflated form and tells him if he's ready to train. And All Might then smiles and says, "Great, young Midoriya." He then says, "But before we fight, I just want to ask, where did you learn to fight?" Deku then says, "Oh, I learned from my grandpa. He's the one who taught me this style." Ah, my bad, guys. Comment, bless you in the comments. And after that, he basically tells him that he trained since he was 4. All Might basically says, "Show me something," and Deku gets into a stance and throws a palm attack. Damn. At the water that creates a giant wave, and he then basically tells All Might that that's something that Deku made up. He uses palm attacks to create long range attacks, and it's that the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist style is actually a close combat style that his grandpa taught him. And since it wasn't long range, I ended up developing my own moves. All Might then gets a drop of sweat and thinks this kid's gonna be a monster. Deku then says, "What's next?" All Might then says, "From the looks of your body, you're ready for the quirk." Deku then says, "How do I use it?" Also, guys, I forgot to mention, Deku's built just like Garo. Like, exactly like Garo. Maybe less, like a tiny bit less, since like he's... Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention, since he actually trained, and I think that's supposed to make you taller or something. I don't know, but he's going to be about 6 feet, and Garo's body type. And he's going to have white hair, and he's going to have a scar on his cheek. That's basically from one time that he was training with his grandpa, and his grandpa kind of overdid it. Deku then, All Might then basically tells him that he has to think smash and squeeze his butt or something like that. I forgot what it was. But Deku doesn't, and then thinks, "I won't unleash this at its full potential." He says, "I'll start off slowly." He then throws a punch that basically creates a tornado. And at this current time, I'm just going to say, he can use 60% of One For All, which means he's already stronger than Prime All Might since he has his own strength on top of One For All. Deku then thinks, wow, and says, "Okay, I'm going to put this throughout my whole body and see how much I can handle." Deku then charges up, and blue lightning starts jumping off of him, and his hair starts standing up, just like when Deku uses it at 100%. And All Might sees this and says, "Oh my god, I didn't think he'd be ready for this much." All Might then asks, "How much of it do you think you're using?" Deku then says, "From the looks of it, about 60% throughout my entire body. And on top of my physical ability, I'd say I'm even stronger than you were in your prime." All Might then starts laughing and says, "Oh, you're confident, boy." And then then Deku says, "Before, I could probably fight you now and do pretty well, but with this, I'm confident I could destroy you, no problem." All Might then gets a drop of sweat and says, "Okay, young man, I want to spar with you without One For All to see where you're currently at without it." Deku then says, "Are you sure?" And All Might then says, "Yes." And he says, "I'll be going at 50% to start off, and let's see if you can keep up." Deku then says, "Okay." He then breathes in and gets into his stance, and that's when All Might rushes Deku and throws a punch that Deku dodges and then deflects, sending a thunderous blow at All Might that sends him back. All Might then coughs out a little bit of blood and says, "Okay, I guess I have to try even harder." As that's happening, All Might then throws a punch, but Deku just is dodging everything and countering it with simple palm strikes, until All Might goes 100% and sends a massive blow at Deku, which hits. But as soon as it hits, he uses what Garo uses in his second season against Tank Top Master, and basically tanks the blow and then sends one even stronger at All Might, sending him crashing back. All Might then gets up and says, "Wow, this isn't over yet, young man." He then says, "Plus Ultra!" And that's when All Might rushes Deku and hits him hard, sending him flying, and then grabs Deku's leg and starts slamming him into the floor back and forward. Grabs his head and slams it into the floor. And that's when Deku spin kicks and kicks All Might right in the jaw, startling him. And as that happens, Deku says, "It's over." And he sends a lethal move he called the... I'm not actually going to make up the move. I want you guys to make it up. Like, whatever you guys want it, it's basically going to be like a palm. But it's going to be like a series of palms that hits like in like his weak points. But yeah, you guys can make up the name for it. Just make sure it's something badass. But yeah, you guys can pick a name, and whichever one I like the most, I'll end up going with. But anyways, he uses it and knocks out All Might and basically hits all of his weak points in his body and made All Might deflate from the blow. Deku then is surprised and says, "Wow, I beat All Might." He then thinks he must be injured even worse than I thought. And yes, that's the case for this one. In this version, All Might will be 20% weaker than in canon, so that's why Deku won. If not, All Might would have slapped easily. Deku then wakes up All Might, and All Might smiles and says, "You're a worthy successor." Also, I forgot to mention, if All Might wouldn't have been caught off guard by what he did at the end, he probably would have won. But Deku's just a really smart fighter. Like, he's not no slouch. After that, Deku then starts training for the 10 months, even harder than ever before, and during this time, he will basically increase his base speed, as well as train in using full cowl, and use even heavier weights like Rock Lee to train, as well as spar with All Might and train in using the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist to become even better at it than he currently is. He wants to develop new moves for it and perfect it even beyond what it is. He wants to make it even better. After the 10-month training arc was over, Deku had reached 85% of One For All and was way past prime All Might strength. Like, I'm just going to throw that out there. And yeah, that's where I'm going to be leaving it off, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for 100 subs, and I hope this channel keeps on growing with you guys, and I keep on making content that you will enjoy. But before I go, I just want to say, you guys can actually comment in the down below who you guys want me to ship him with. It can be literally anybody except for guys. I don't want to do that. Like, I'm just not comfortable with it. But maybe I could if I was to like change the genders. But yeah. But anyways, but that would be for another series. You guys could pick anyone from Melissa to like, just you guys could literally just pick anybody from girls to 1B. To Melissa. I've seen something like that, and I honestly like the idea, but you guys get the point. You guys can pick whatever you want. And with that out of the way, Zether out. Wait, thanks for 100 subs one more time. But after that, Zether out.